Welcome back to the deep dive, where we take your pile of sources and really try to unearth those crucial nuggets of knowledge. Today, we're embarking on a pretty fascinating deep dive, actually, into a corner of the tech world that's, well, often overlooked but super important for a burgeoning industry: Bitcoin mining hardware. We're looking at a brand new player hitting the scene, Block's Proto Rig. Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is it, and maybe more importantly, why does this single piece of hardware signify a potential shift in, like, a whole global industry?
Yeah, it's a really interesting development.
Mhm.
And I think to truly appreciate the significance of Block's ProtoRig, we kind of need to understand the current landscape. For years, the Bitcoin mining hardware market has been, well, largely dominated by just two major players, Bitmain and MicroBT.
Right, those are the big names everyone knows.
Exactly. And critically, both of these firms have strong links to China. So this new entry from Block is significant because it introduces some much-needed geopolitical diversification. The production is based right here in the U.S.
Okay, wow. That immediately sounds like a potential game changer just for supply chain security, independence, all of that. So here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Block seems to be building more than just, a piece of hardware.
Yeah.
It feels like they're making a strategic statement. What actually makes this new miner stand out?
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. When you look at Block's design philosophy for the Proto Rig, two major themes really emerge: self-sufficiency and long-term durability.
Okay, so self-sufficiency. Let's start there. The most striking thing is obviously that it's made in the USA. Now, this isn't just a marketing slogan, is it? It sounds like it directly addresses that deep reliance on Chinese manufacturers we talked about, some maybe even tied to the CCP. What are the deeper implications of this geographic shift?
Yeah, it's definitely not just politics. It's a very strategic move, really, to de-risk the whole mining industry. I mean, think back to the supply chain shocks we've seen over the past few years.
Okay.
Yeah. Dependence on one single region for critical tech like this, it can cripple an industry almost overnight. So Block is essentially building in resilience, which, itself becomes a competitive advantage.
How so?
Well, it insulates miners against potential trade wars, political tensions, or even just unforeseen events like natural disasters that could disrupt global supply lines.
Right, right. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so beyond the geopolitics, how is Block addressing the day-to-day pain points for the actual miners operating these things? Our research highlighted something pretty intriguing about its modular design.
And that's where that second theme, durability, really comes into play. The Proto Rig boasts a highly modular design. So parts like hash boards, and those are the fundamental computing units, the bits that do the actual Bitcoin mining calculations.
The core engine, basically.
Kind of, yeah. Those can be easily swapped out. And this fundamentally changes the economics and the logistics for miners.
I can imagine. What does that actually mean for, the average miner's operational headaches? Reduced downtime, lower repair costs, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Both of those.
Yeah.
It means significantly reduced downtime, for one.
Yeah.
Lower repair costs, definitely. And also maybe less need for highly trained, really specialized technicians.
Okay.
If a single component fails, you're not replacing an entire expensive rig or, sending it off for complex, time-consuming repairs. You're just swapping out a module, which makes maintenance far more accessible and, crucially, keeps operations humming along.
Yeah, that sounds like a practical game changer. Okay, and then on the software side, Block is pushing open source with its fleet mining management software. How significant is that, especially moving away from the typically proprietary, sometimes kind of clunky software miners are maybe used to?
Oh, it's a massive differentiator, no question. Most existing miner software can be, well, let's just say frustratingly clunky, opaque even. By going open source, Block offers a much more user-friendly experience, sure, but maybe more importantly, it opens the door to extensive community development and increased transparency.
Ah, so others can build on it or inspect it?
Exactly. It fosters innovation from the ground up and allows for much greater scrutiny and potentially better security over time.
Interesting. Okay. Another ambitious goal you mentioned was longevity. We're hearing this thing is designed to last 10 years, which sounds frankly huge compared to the typical, 3 to 5 years for most rigs?
Yeah, 3 to 5 is pretty standard, so 10 years is ambitious.
What does that actually mean for a miner's balance sheet over that decade? Are we talking significant savings, or is it more subtle?
Oh, it's anything but subtle, believe me. To put that in real terms for you, our sources indicate this could slice a significant chunk off costs. maybe 15–20% off upgrade costs each cycle.
Wow, 15–20%.
Yeah, I mean, imagine being a miner who's had to replace their entire rig fleet every 3 years, like clockwork, a 10-year lifespan. That fundamentally changes your business model. It provides stability, predictability in what is, let's face it, a highly volatile market.
Absolutely. Okay, and finally, there's this integration piece. It's not just a standalone hardware play, right? It seems to complement Block's broader kind of full stack Bitcoin strategy. We're talking Cash App, the BitQ wallet, Square payments, their ocean mining pool.
That's right, it all fits together.
How does this full stack integration position Block in the market, do you think?
Well, what's fascinating here is how all these advantages, the U.S. production, the modularity, the software, the longevity, they seem designed to tackle the often hidden costs and vulnerabilities in the mining sector. Take the modularity again. It transforms repair from this complex, specialized task into something much more accessible, right? That fundamentally impacts long-term operational costs and efficiency. The extended longevity isn't just about saving money on buying new rigs every few years. It's about stability, predictability, in a market that swings wildly.
Yeah, predictability is gold in crypto.
Exactly. And Block's integrated ecosystem vision, it really highlights a trend beyond just selling hardware boxes. It's about building an entire infrastructure around Bitcoin. They seem to be trying to own the whole experience, from mining to spending.
Okay, those advantages definitely sound compelling, especially that longevity and the modular repair aspect. But, no product is perfect. There are always challenges, competition. So what are the limitations here? How does the Proto Rig actually stack up against what's already out there, or maybe what's coming soon? Does pure efficiency always win in such a competitive, razor-thin margin business like mining?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? And yeah, there are limitations. One key one is raw efficiency. The Proto Rig achieves about 14.1 joules per terahash.
Okay, 14.1 JTH. And lower is better, right? Less power for the same work.
Correct. Lower is better. It means greater efficiency, extracting more computation from less electricity. And while 14.1 is, solid, it's not top of the line, Bitmain's upcoming S23 miner, which is projected for maybe 2026. That's aiming for 9.5 joules per terahash.
Ooh, 9.5 versus 14.1. That's a pretty significant gap.
It is. So on pure performance per watt numbers, Bitmain still leads. For now, anyway.
Okay. And then there's the practical reality of, noise and power consumption. What does a potential buyer need to know on that front?
Right. Well, like pretty much all industrial scale miners, the Proto Rig is loud. Very loud. It's not really suitable for, say, putting your spare room at home unless you got some serious soundproofing planned.
Right, not a desktop accessory.
Definitely not. And also, for anyone maybe dreaming of solo home mining, the typical residential electricity rates usually make it unprofitable with this kind of powerful equipment anyway. It's really designed for industrial operations, data centers, places with cheaper power and noise insulation.
Makes sense. Okay, and finally, the big unknown, price. The exact pricing is still TBD, right? But likely a few $1,000s per unit. How might that initial cost weigh against those touted long-term benefits like the longevity?
Yeah, pricing is still up in the air, probably in the few $1,000s range per unit. And, if we connect this back to the bigger picture, that efficiency gap we talked about, it raises that important question again. Does raw efficiency always trump everything else? The Proto Rig's value proposition seems to be less about maximizing terahashes per watt right now and maybe more about resilience, repairability, and that geopolitical independence factor.
So a different kind of value.
Potentially, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, imagine a scenario where trade restrictions on Chinese hardware were to increase significantly.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the Proto Rig's made in the USA aspect and its more secure supply chain could give it a massive advantage.
Right. That could potentially outweigh its current efficiency deficit.
It absolutely could. And you see Jack Dorsey's continued focus on building fundamental Bitcoin infrastructure, not just, financial speculation. It really reinforces Block's unique role here. They're positioning themselves as maybe the only truly full-stack Bitcoin company out there, building the tools, not just trading the asset.
It really makes you think about the different kinds of trade-offs involved in innovation, doesn't it? It's not always just about the fastest chip or the lowest power draw. What really stands out to you when you consider all these different aspects, the pros, the cons, the strategy?
For me, it's that strategic pivot, the willingness to maybe sacrifice some cutting-edge efficiency for other values, like resilience and independence. It's a bet on a different future for the industry.
So, okay. We've taken a pretty deep dive into Block's Proto Rig today. We've explored its strategic advantages like the US-based production, the modularity, that impressive longevity. And we've also looked at its current challenges, mainly in raw efficiency compared to upcoming competitors, and the unknown cost factor. It's a really fascinating look at how companies are competing not just on technical specs anymore, but maybe more on supply chain resilience and strategic independence.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this raises an important question, maybe the key takeaway. The Proto Rig really highlights what could be a critical shift.
Yeah.
The increasing value placed on diversification, even if it means accepting a slight trade-off in pure efficiency right now.
Hmm.
It really underscores that in a world that seems increasingly shaped by geopolitics and uh, supply chain vulnerabilities,
Hmm.
the best technology isn't always the one with the highest raw performance numbers on paper. Sometimes, maybe often, it's the one that offers the most stability and security in the long run.
Yeah, that's a powerful point. And it brings us to a final provocative thought for you, our listeners, to maybe mull over. How might these same principles, this idea of prioritizing resilience, supply chain security, domestic production, maybe over pure raw efficiency, how might that play out in other critical industries? Beyond just Bitcoin mining, where else might we see companies or even countries opting for a good enough solution if it ultimately means more control and less dependency on potentially fragile global systems? Keep that question in mind as you navigate the news and the tech world around you this week. It's definitely something worth thinking about.